Now, with it being another slow news day.
Slow as in non-existent.
Yeah, we got Bad Batch a week from today, though, or yesterday, whatever day it is. So Bad Batch is coming. That'll probably change the news cycle in the Star Wars galaxy. But
hooray!
But with it being slow, let's have an aggressive negotiations. Though I don't think this is going to be all too aggressive.
Hold on. Here's one piece of news. In January, if you have PlayStation Plus, you'll get free access to Jedi Fallen Order.
The beta?
No, Fallen Order.
Oh, Fallen Order, I thought.
So that if you have not had a chance to play the original game before the sequel comes out, PlayStation Plus will give you that opportunity for free.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's all I had to say for the news, so that's why I didn't get a whole segment.
We could have made a whole video out of that.
No, we could not have.
Joking.
Nobody would have. No.
Someone would have watched it and they would have been like, really, guys? Really? Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's get to the aggressive negotiation topic. Is Star Wars, in its current iteration, its current form, is it too confusing for casual fans?
This is a very interesting topic. I mean, Star Wars has been kind of doing some weird things.
Kinda?
I mean, they made movies, back when they made movies.
Yep.
And they made movies in order. Sort of. All right, so they did them in spurts, but it was very obvious what these,
When you call them prequels and you're setting up the backstory of Darth Vader, yes, people understood the prequels took place before the original trilogy. It's advertised that way.
Right, episode 1, episode 2,
yes.
They made it very clear where they
did everything they needed to do, I think, with the prequels.
And then casual fans, I think, got confused with Rogue One.
Rogue One was
that was the first confusion
because the sequels were obvious, right? Okay, it's old Han Solo, it's old Luke, it's old. We get that.
Episode 7.
It's decades after. Yes, it's decades after the original trilogy. Rogue One was the first movie that I kind of.
I had my friends asking me like, "Well, when does this take place?"
Rogue One was the first time, and this sounds silly, that I really began to understand that some people don't get Star Wars. That's a weird way to put it. That's a wrong way to put it. But don't really get the timeline at all.
Modern audiences we're used to seeing things like the MCU, which everything follows kind of a very linear pattern where everything goes in order. And if it doesn't go in order, we know it doesn't go in order.
Yeah, when the MCU is out of order, it's like, oh, look, it's Captain America, the first Avenger. It's World War II. Most people know when World War II took place, right?
Or at least they know it took place before current times.
Yes, they understand it's a good chunk of the way in the past, right? It's in the 1940s, or it started in the 30s, technically. And we have things like N Germany. I can't say what that is, otherwise this video will probably get flagged for me saying hate speech or something. So everybody knows what that N word is that I'm
confused.
You know what it is. So we have Germany, we have other things in there that make it very obvious when this is taking place.
Yes. Just like in Captain Marvel.
Another great example. She falls out of the sky and lands in a Blockbuster. Now, we know today, Blockbuster, I think there's like one store left, right?
In Oregon? But yeah. I heard a rumor that it was getting turned into a 90s-themed restaurant.
No.
And Netflix canceled their series
Darth Vader,
of
no.
Blockbuster after one season.
Insert overdramatic Darth Vader, no. That's terrible.
That's great.
But no, you right away know that this is not modern day, right? We don't have Blockbusters. If Carol Danvers fell out of the sky and hit the one Blockbuster left in the world, that would be really strange. She probably just hit one of the 1,000 that were in the U.S. back in the 90s, right?
Yes, every town had a Blockbuster, I think.
Yes, pretty much literally, yeah.
But then Disney Plus came out because, we don't have any movies to watch anymore. And that's where it really started mucking things up. I mean, you had things like Han Solo. Everyone's like, oh, it's young Han. It's a new actor.
Get that, yeah.
Okay, there's still plenty of visual cues. But then you come across the Disney Plus era. Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Bad Batch, Andor. Kenobi. Messy.
It is messy. I think you were saying before about Rogue One. That was the first time that I really realized people don't get the timeline so much. I can't even tell you how many people are like, well, when does this take place? I'm like, are you kidding me?
I feel like
it leads right into A New Hope.
I feel like they need to put up a timeline before the show to kind of show you where it's going.
But I don't think that necessarily helps. A timeline that you don't understand is not going to help you.
Just put the movies up there and then go, this takes place in there.
Yeah, oddly enough, the books do that. A lot of the Del Rey novels will have the timeline. They did that for a long time, but it's strange because those are the people who probably don't need the timeline. If you're reading the book, you probably have a pretty good grasp.
Not someone who's like, I need to know when this takes place.
Yeah, but I had people ask me, why are they building another Death Star? Like, that's not another. That is the first Death Star.
Yes.
That's the original one.
It's messy. Like I said, it's very, very messy. I mean, you turn on Disney Plus and you scroll through the shows and you have no idea when they take place just off of looking at them.
No, and I've had a lot of people like,
yeah.
when exactly is this taking place? And then I explained it's like 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and
My
even that is kind
dad
of
was
like
really confused that Boba Fett was played by a different actor because he thought it was something that took place before we did the Sarlacc pit at first.
yeah, even things like that can be very confusing.
Right, because people don't associate Boba Fett as having survived the Sarlacc pit.
No, and plus, I mean, not everybody, for better or worse, kind of puts it together that Boba Fett is, Tamora Morrison and was Jango in the prequels, and it makes sense that Boba would grow up to be just like Jango.
Honestly, the only saving grace to that is because of the fact that it took place after a Mandalorian season, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's the same guy."
Yeah, that helped probably.
That helped. I mean, but then you have Bad Batch that like got put on there, and you're like, "Wait, look, it's that Fennec Shand person, right?" Yep. And this takes place in the past because, right?
It is. I get, like I said, I know a lot of friends who try to keep up with this or ask me questions, and the questions I get asked are like, "Really? You didn't get that?"
Well, not everyone.
Maybe I just have stupid friends. Sorry, guys.
Well, you have people who watch something just one time, and they're not like deep delving in and going, "I need to know all the lore surrounding this." They just watch the show. I mean, they put Kenobi out right after Book of Boba Fett, and the jump in timeline of that is very, very like abrupt.
And again, as a Star Wars fan, as someone who, even if you're, not the most hardcore fan in the world, like, you get it. Like, okay, I can infer when this is taking place by the fact that Kenobi is on Tatooine. And he's alive, yes.
And Luke is a child.
Yes, Leia is about 9 years old. I should be able to, add it all up and figure out when this takes place. But not everybody is a big enough fan to do that.
No, they just want to watch a show, and they're like, this doesn't have anything to do with the other ones, right?
Yeah, and plus they are used to something like the MCU, where pretty much, more or less, as we were saying before, one show takes place after another, or one movie, and if it doesn't, again, you have those visual cues, which are very obvious to pretty much anybody.
Well, and it gets confusing because you have them constantly saying things like the Filoni-verse, the Mando-verse, but part of the Disney Plus is part of that, and then part of it is clearly not.
Yes. Which is, I mean, we have something like The Acolyte coming out. Yeah, we also have things like the High Republic. I have people asking me, what is the High Republic? Well, I'm like, well, that's like 200 years before the prequels, but wait, there's a second phase that's another 150 years before that. And it's like the glossed over expression. Like, what is this? Why would I read this? What's going on?
With the timeline getting all out of order, it's like they need to pick an era and just stick with it.
Yes, I think that's
Instead,
where
they're throwing out feelers in 800 different directions, and I feel like that could be really confusing to people who aren't you or I or your listeners here who aren't paying attention to the lore in the canon in the direction that they're heading.
Yeah, and something like the Old Republic too. I know people who love the game and they play it and they're like, well, when does that exactly take place in comparison to like the original? I'm like, well, thousands of years. And I'm like, well, why do they have like the same technology 1,000 years ago?
Well, then they throw something in there like Star Wars Visions, and people are like, these are Star Wars stories? Because Visions doesn't start out with like a disclaimer.
Well, it shouldn't have to in a way. I mean I get what you're saying, but it shouldn't have to. It should be kind of a given that these are fun stories. Yet at the same time, we do live in the day and age of everything is canon, right? And not to mention we were told everything was going to be canon by Lucasfilm.
And then they told us that this isn't canon, and it got me confused.
Yeah.
They're making a mess by, I feel like, jumping all over. Even our Discord was having a conversation about it the other day, about everything being all over. I mean, Andor is hard to explain to people.
Andor's really hard to
explain. Think of when season 2 of Andor comes out, and you're like, oh, wait, this is 4 years before Rogue One. No, this episode is 3 years before.
And because Andor doesn't have a lot. I mean, it has the Empire, it has the early rebellion. Again, you can infer. Most people are going to infer. I'm not saying everybody doesn't get it.
People are going to assume it takes place after, for the most part. I mean, if you would have told me there was a series about a character, I'd be like, oh, this takes place after the events we already saw them in. Yeah, but I wouldn't always think it takes place before.
When we see him.
Not everyone remembers that or watches that movie 100 times.
That is true. Not everybody remembers.
They just think, hey, like Boba Fett, he must have survived somehow.
Perhaps,
we didn't see the body, and everyone makes it.
Sometimes even when we do, they come back anyway.
Exactly.
Which is also got to be very confusing.
So how do you not know that this doesn't take place after and before, unless you know?
Yeah, what I think this all boils down to is their best bet would be to pick a time and to go with it.
It's probably the Mandoverse.
Well, it is, and it isn't, because they're still making things outside of it.
I know. But they've got 3-4 shows set in that time period now that they're doing.
Skeleton Crew,
Ahsoka, Boba Fett, and Mando.
Yeah, I suppose
they're all in the Mandoverse.
Or Filoni-verse, or whatever you want to call it.
I'm going to call it the Mandoverse. He just need a bigger head.
Ooh, Filoni?
Yeah.
So we give a bigger head to Mando?
Yes.
Okay, he's going to need a bigger helmet.
It's Mando's verse.
I need more Beskar. My helmet doesn't fit my head anymore.
Whatever.
Sorry, Grogu. Got to take that chainmail back.
He would never take back
he needs a big head. He can't show up. He's already screwed up once with the face reveal. He can't do it again. But seriously, here's what I think the problem is. I think originally the idea was the sequel trilogy would be a hit, and we'll move on from there. Simple, right? Mm-hmm. Sequel trilogy, not a hit with everybody. So going post-sequel trilogy probably wouldn't have been a good idea.
So instead they're going to thread the needle. They're just going to loop in and out between the movies.
Apparently.
Which, honestly, at the beginning of the first episode of each, they should just give you an opening scroll telling you when this takes place.
Probably.
Just some sort of little opening scroll. It's a time of unrest in the galaxy. The Empire has fallen, and...
Well, they did try to name the different time periods, too, like the Age of Resistance, the Age of the Republic, the Age of Rebellion. But again, that's...
Because that's something the casual fans know. No, it needs to be a scroll at the beginning of each series to at least give the casual fan a premise of when this takes place. That could help.
It could help.
Instead of that little flashy helmet opening, give me just 2 seconds, give me a line, a couple of lines to tell me what is the galaxy feeling like at this time, when is this taking place.
Sure.
It would give you a consistency throughout the series as well.
Yeah. I think this is a bigger problem than, again, most more hardcore Star Wars fans realize. Just based off my experiences.
As many of my friends get confused.
Yeah, I know intelligent people, not all my friends are stupid. Most of them are not. And like I said, they don't watch this, so I can talk crap about them. But most of my friends are pretty smart people, and they'll ask me questions, and I'm like, seriously? You don't? And I've told this story before, but I had a good friend of mine who asked me about the prequels. He's like, is that Senator guy or that Chancellor guy in the prequels? Is he the same guy as the Emperor in the original trilogy? And I'm like, isn't that the most obvious thing in the world? But it's not necessarily.
No. Hey, I get asked weird questions too. My sister asked. You're going to like this question. How come, because you watch The Mandalorian, how come in The Mandalorian everyone always has their money that they have to pay someone in exactly the right amount in a pouch that they can give to people?
That's one of the biggest tropes of like fantasy ever. You just toss them the pouch.
Because you want to imply that that's all you have. You would divide your money.
Because if you pouches.
If you get pickpocketed, they're going to get one pouch, but they won't get all of them.
Sure.
So depending on how much they're quoting, you just grab a pouch that's around there and be like, there's your money.
I think
it's cooler.
I think the reason why that exists is because it would be like boring to see the person pull out their pouch and like count out their coins.
That's why you just debit cards.
It's more dramatic to be like, here's your money, Mando.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I mean that was an old mercenary thing, is to quote unquote wear your cash.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like if you're a mercenary, why are you should look like you've got money. You're wearing gold rings and gold link chains on your thing. So if you're paying someone, you throw them a couple rings. You value the gems. You wear your cash.
All right.
I don't know why I know all these things. So I'm sorry.
Some of the things you know.
But yes, that was how you did it. You would break off chain links and go, here. This is the gold. Let's go to a money count and let's say how much the gold is worth here. You buy it cheaper in another place, investing in gemstones, fine jewelry, and when you get need to pay someone, you can value that jewelry might change value depending on the region.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. That's weird. I'm sorry.
Yep. All right. Well, on that note, I think that's all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you think. What have you experienced? I'm assuming if you're watching us, if you watch a good 15-minute video about people discussing Star Wars, you're probably a pretty hardcore fan yourself. You might not be, but you probably are. So tell me what your experience is with other people, friends, family. Do they ask you strange questions? Are you like, well, how is this not obvious? Or do you find that in general people grasp it pretty well? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.